Welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome back to the Severn Way. I'm here in Gloucestershire at the moment, but today on our adventures we'll be leaving Gloucestershire and heading south to South Gloucestershire. That over there, of course, is Sabrina. The other side of there is the Forest of Dean, a place we've been to a few times now here on West Country Wanderings, and I'm sure we will be again. I'm starting my journey here today at Sharpness docks, and before we leave here I'll tell you a little bit about the docks and see if we can get some other shots of it as well. So I'm just on the edge of the docks. The docks actually lie right behind me as I'm talking to the camera today. Now we have quite a challenge today, and I am a little bit apprehensive and nervous, I don't mind admitting, because I need to walk down to Oldbury-on-Severn, which is 15.5 kilometres. And there is no public transport in this area, so I need to walk back those 15.5 kilometres to return to my car here at Sharpness docks. So yes, it's going to be quite a long day. It's also going to be quite a warm day. So it's just after 5 AM here in Gloucestershire this morning, and the reason I'm setting off so early, it's about 14.5 degrees. Later on in the daytime it's forecast to get right up to 26, 27 degrees. And I don't want to be walking in that, so I'm hoping to head to Oldbury-on-Severn well before lunchtime, resting up in the peak heat of the day there in some shade, probably in the pub there. I think it's called the Anchor, and then I'll be returning to my car later when the temperatures start to drop. That's the plan. Anyway, hope to show you a lot of Sabrina, and we've got 2 power stations on the way, so I hope to tell you a little bit about those on the route as well. I've got my trusty guidebook somewhere in my pocket here. Yes, there it is. Been keeping me going there. So this is the Cicerone guide. If you haven't seen this before, I have pointed it out a couple of times. It's a really handy guidebook to do in the Severn Way trail, the whole of it. And it's not the other side. Like I was at Berkeley Pill the other day on one of my canal adventures. It's definitely not on that side of the Severn. It's definitely on this one as we make our way south. 2 more journeys to do after this one. After Oldbury, we're going down to Severn Beach and then into the city of Bristol. But both of those I can use the train, because Severn Beach has its own railway station. And late today we have nothing here. There used to be a railway station in Sharpness, and I'll talk a little bit more about that before we leave and head south. So I hope you can join me again here on West Country Wanderings along the Severn Way. Now, as you can see, we have a couple of tall ships here, just there and there, in Sharpness docks at the moment. I'm not sure if they're from the ones that were at the Gloucester Tall Ships Festival a few weeks ago. I did a separate video about that. Here though is the Vale of Berkeley Railway. It's a heritage railway line, and they're hoping to open a short stretch of track in this area. They've been doing lots of clearance around a place called Oldminster Sidings, and yes, you guessed it, I did a separate video about that in one of my railway series. If you want to check that out, they've got a couple of locos down there, one that was used by the Central Electricity Generating Board in one of their power stations now here. Actually, that one there is the Pelican of London. It's not one that was at the Tall Ships event. The other one there, I can't quite make out what that is. This is the dry dock facility, although there is water in it, in the dry dock at the moment, where they repair tall ships such as these here at Sharpness docks. So what you see behind you here is the new part of Sharpness docks, which actually opened in 1875. I think that's right. There is an older part of the dock, which is where I finished the last Severn Way. You can cast your mind back to that, see if I can find a clip of that and insert that right now. It all started when the Staffordshire and Worcester Canal opened. The Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal opened up in 1775, I believe. And when that opened up, connecting up to the River Severn at Oldbury-on-Severn, which of course we've seen earlier on the Severn Way, it increased the traffic going up and down the River Severn from Stourport in Worcestershire right down the Bristol Channel to Avonmouth and beyond into the open sea. The problem with that is south of Gloucester, the River Severn gets very, very treacherous indeed. In fact, lots of ships and boats were run aground carrying cargo as they made their way south from Gloucester. So a concept, an idea was happened with one Bewdley merchant. So who was this Bewdley merchant, I hear you cry? Well, of course, Bewdley is also on the River Severn. I'm having to pop up there in the next couple of days as well, but more of that later on. He was called Samuel Skey, S-K-E-Y, and he had a chemical factory right by the banks of the River Severn there, and his goods came into and out of that factory, yes, you guessed it, along the River Severn. So he was very keen to improve access right down to Avonmouth docks, which was becoming burgeoning because that was a continuation of the docks in Bristol along the tidal River Avon. Well, he got together with some other guys and they had an idea. And some of these other merchants included George Humphreys of Birmingham and Aaron York of Stourport. They also included a banker from Worcester called Joseph Berwick and a pin maker from Gloucester called Thomas Weaver. Well, they held several meetings and had an idea for a canal to run parallel to the River Severn to avoid Sabrina's treachery and her frequent habit of crashing and running aground ships and boats along her length. Now, the canal that was proposed was 16 miles long and 72 feet wide. Yes, that's very wide. So we're not talking about an ordinary barge or tugboat canal that we've covered many times here previously on West Country Wanderings, but one that can actually carry full-blooded ships like this one and the large cargoes that still come here to the port of Sharpness. Now, the canal started being dug south from Gloucester. This is long before the port there was built, around about the end of the 18th century, but was beset by a number of problems. They had to change the route because of land ownerships right around the village of Hempstead, so it went, I think, further towards the west way and had to be rerouted, and then it was redug again, so it didn't really properly open to, well, between 1810 1815 various sections were opened first. And the original plan was actually to get the canal into the River Severn at Berkeley Pill, that Pill term again, which we covered the other day at Berkeley Pill, but they then decided to end the canal here at Sharpness. Now, not here, what you see here today, the newer docks are, say, 1875, but the older ones back up that way, where there was a pier, and also the, what they called SARA, the Severn Area Rescue Association, do a brilliant job. They've got bases, I think, down at Avonmouth as well, and one up to the aforementioned Bewdley, so they cover the whole of the section, Bewdley, all the way down to the Bristol Channel on the River Severn. So we're going to make our way south now, out of here, and go on towards Oldbury-on-Severn. So I will see you in a bit, and I'll put up maps so you can see what's happening. Now, Sharpness is very much still a working port. Back there, there's some warehouses, and I've already seen several lorries leaving, laden down, I think, were possibly with grain that arrived here on ships. So it's very much an active port here at Sharpness. I'm making my way what is known as Great Western Road, and if you turn along Great Western Road, there is a car park. So if you want to visit Sharpness docks, it's a Canal and River Trust car park. You can park there and you get a good view over the lock as it enters Sharpness. But we will return to Sharpness docks here to do a longer video about it. It's too much to cover at the start of a mammoth walk today. But I just thought I'd give you a flavour, a little bit of a background of it. Well, what an interesting thing here, just behind me, just swing around, is an old church. Can't get into it. It's a scrapyard dealer now. It just seems such a waste to have a church inside a scrapyard dealer, doesn't it? But there was once a hospital here as well to provide the needs of the people working on the ships. There was also not only one hospital, but another. It was an isolation hospital for tropical diseases. I'll see if I can find that on the map as well. It's an amazing area full of incredible shipping and navigation history all around this. We're not going down Great Western Road. Oh, that was so cold because of the railways that were once in this area. You can see a sleeper down there. We're making our way straight in line towards the River Severn, and then we'll be following the embankment down to Berkeley Pill. I don't know if my lens on this particular camera will pick that up, but you can make out tidal rapids there right in the middle of the River Severn. Just goes to show how dangerous a river this can be, certainly on this section south of Gloucester. just over there in the distance on the other side of the River Severn, that is the port of Lydney with its canal. And you can just make out further down the River Severn there, one of two bridges. That was the first one that was opened by the Queen in the early part of the 1960s. Covered in mist at the moment. Just make out the two towers peeping out from the top of it. And that is now the M48, originally the M4 of course. We'll be walking under both of those bridges when we get further down to Severn Bridge on the next episode. And it's certainly well marked here, Severn Way path, which takes us through this stile, which is actually made up of some old railway rails from Sharpness docks. The other thing worth noting here is just how long the grass is on this section of the Severn Way. You can tell this is hardly ever used by walkers at all, even though we're just outside Sharpness. You can also tell it's early too, because I'm absolutely soaked, not from rain, but from the very heavy dew because of the warmth yesterday. And it's about, well, it still needs to get warm yet to burn off the moisture that lies in the grass. Wow, that's new. That's not something I've spotted before. So we're just on the edge of the docks here with a new facility, so brand new warehousing here. And just before you get to the sewage works, which is just to the right, a load of cars, I think they're new cars, which have been imported and brought here for storage for onward distribution right into the port of Sharpness. Wow, I've seen them before as you go over the Avonmouth Bridge on the M5 heading south, and you can see them lined up there, but I didn't realise they were using it here as well. So this is the Sunnygar outfall, so it's a little brook or stream. It's not even marked on the OS map actually, but Environment Agency there, and it flows directly into the River Severn, as you can see, and directly opposite is the aforementioned Lydney Docks, which has been restored recently. We have covered it a bit previously, but I think it's overdue a more in-depth look at that. And that's the view looking back the other way towards Sharpness Docks and the entrance to the lock and the Sharpness and Gloucester Canal. It's a beautiful view over there with the mist still lying over the southern reaches of the Forest of Dean and down towards Chepstow, Tidnam, that sort of area, which we've covered on a lost railway walk, in fact, heading over to Tintern. Now, when I'm doing these walks, I never find there's just not quite enough time. It's already coming up to 7 o'clock. It's starting to warm up, but it's still cooler than what it's going to be later on, I feel. Although I might be feeling a little bit warm, my legs are absolutely soaked with this dew in this very long grass. Am I the first person to walk along here this month? This year? So we've now got to Berkeley Pill, marked by those two little lighthouses there. Markers for shipping so they don't make a wrong turn and try and head up Berkeley Pill. And our footpath has to go around to the left here because there's no bridge across Berkeley Pill. We also need to diverge around the back of Berkeley Nuclear Power Station. It is, as I say, still being decommissioned, although they are still removing nuclear materials from it, some of which goes on to trains from Sharpness. Yes, indeed, still used there. In fact, it's not in Sharpness docks, but near the site of the old Berkeley railway station. Now, this reminds me of where I was not that long ago at Burnham-on-Sea and the river there, the name of which has suddenly just gone out of my head. Not the parrot, no. Yeah, it looks very similar to that. And this, of course, would have been the location, Burvagos, yes, Burnham-on-Sea. This would have been the location where the then called Gloucester to Berkeley Canal would have joined Sabrina along there. Well, they would have cut it through, of course, on the cut to make it into a ship canal. But they then decided to make it a little bit further north to where the port of Sharpness is these days. You can see here Berkeley Pill, so that's coming along there. And it does go tidal, well, up to that, I think it's a weir, and I think we go across the top of that. And just a little bit further inland from here is the town of Berkeley, which is famous for two things: Berkeley Castle and Edward Jenner, who invented vaccines. This is one of the longest and largest pills on the River Severn. As we found out the other day when I was at Berkeley Pill, it just simply means tidal inlet from the Welsh pill, meaning pool. Just come up some gates. We'll go across this. I think it's some kind of weir. It's marked on the map as being MTL. I think that might stand for mean tidal limit, because the Berkeley Pill, I don't know if you can see it because there's a tree in the way there, but it continues on down there and it's still tidal at that point. We still need to make our way some distance considerably inland here, away from Sabrina, up to the road, which I think is the main road, which goes on into Berkeley Power Station. So I've decided to use this as my first pit stop. I've got the camera tied around to the gate at the moment with my Joby stick. So just having a cup of tea here. I need to be mindful. I need to take on board a lot of fluid today because it's a warm day. So I'm going to make regular stops. I think we're about a quarter of the way to Oldbury-on-Severn. I'm not sure actually where Gloucestershire ends and South Gloucestershire leaves, because it's never very clear on the map. It is marked, but it's never marked very clearly. Difficult to see when you're looking at it. I know we're still in Gloucestershire at the moment because Berkeley is in Gloucestershire. It's when we go south of here, the other side of the power station, that we'll go into South Gloucestershire somewhere. Hopefully I'll be able to find it so I can tell you exactly where that is as we're following the route. Anyway, hope you're enjoying this section of the Severn Way here on West Country Wanderings, having this tea, and then we'll continue our travels. Since I've been doing the Severn Way, it's always been surprising how little walkers actually use it, apart from sections in towns like Shrewsbury, Worcester and Gloucester. Outside of those areas you just don't see any walkers along it at all. And I hope only just one person watches one of my Severn Way videos inspires them to do not necessarily the whole of the Severn Way, but part of it, and to appreciate the beauty of Britain's longest river. So this is our bridge. It's a road bridge, not just a footbridge, which takes us across Berkeley Pill. Surprising amount of flow on the water there as it makes its way out to the River Severn. I'm not sure where this rises. Possibly in the Cotswold Hills, maybe around Stinchcombe area. Not sure, but if I can find that out, I'll put it in the usual way. So we've got a little bit of road walking on this section. This is the road that goes into Berkeley Power Station. As I say, it's now been decommissioned, well, still in the process thereof. But on site though, and a bit further to the south of it, I think we'll skirt around of it, is a large science park and innovation park. And I think they've used the skill base of the workers that used to work at the nuclear power station when it was running into the science park, and trained up another generation of people to take that forward. So we're now coming up to the entrance to the science park, but just before that we need to turn left onto the Severn Way. So this is the Berkeley site, NRS, no idea what that stands for. It's also the Gloucestershire Science and Technology Park here at Berkeley Green. It's also the site of the NDA, the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. Now, thankfully the grass along this section is a lot shorter than what we had when we're walking towards Berkeley Pill. So we've been following a woodland which is just over there. Sorry about the noise, that is a tractor behind me. Can't do anything about that, I'm afraid. And that's the edge of the science park there. It's absolutely huge. That's back to Lydney Harbour again. And right across the Severn we're seeing sights of the River Severn again. Now, if you know your farming at all, does anybody knows what they are? They look like bird feeders, but they're not bird feeders. They only have two sides to them, so it's like two, I don't know how to describe the shape, two arrow-shaped pieces of fabric with no back on them. I don't know. What are they for? Drop a comment below. Now, of all the things I expected to see on the Severn Way today, that wasn't one of them. Two teddy bears lying propped up against this fence post. Must be a story behind that. Hello again. So there we go. There's our River Sabrina. So the River Severn. We're high up on an embankment now. It's actually made of concrete here. Excuse my boots creaking, by the way. They've got so wet walking through that long grass. They are squeaking. So hopefully when I stop at lunchtime, I get to Oldbury, I will dry them out. But yeah, it's wonderful. So we're back here. You can see the scale of it now. Already looks wider than when we set off from Sharpness. And I can see the older of the two Severn bridges ahead of me. Now the mist is clear. It's looking a lot closer. So you can see that we're heading that way. And our destination is in sight over the next couple of videos. At this point here, it's very clear. You can see the water rushing up towards the Gloucester direction. Just shows the range of the tides here. I can never remember. It depends on which source you read. Is it the first, second or third biggest tidal range in the world, I do believe. But you can never get a very accurate picture on that because different sources give you different answers to that, but it's certainly a huge tidal range wherever it ranks. So here you can see clearly the seawall that I'm walking on top of, and to the left of the screen there, that's a navigational aid because the Severn at this point, well, it sort of drifts round to the right slightly. So any boat or ship following the current could have a tendency to plough straight into the seawall at this point. I think that's why that's there. So just coming up on the left here is Severn House Farm, and it's just the woodland that's just behind it. I think I can just see the trees popping up there in the middle of the screen where we leave Gloucestershire. And you can see this large breakwater continues swinging around to the right, in fact. And we have another outfall here, courtesy the Environment Agency. Well, the outflow is natural enough, but obviously this sluice gate, which is electronically controlled for flood prevention, and this one here is Berkeley Pill. Curiously behind the farmhouse there, I'm not sure if that is a mobile phone transmitter, but on the top of it it's got red and white deflectors. Is that something to do with navigational aid too? It could be. Now we've reached World's End. No, not the World's End, but the World's End Outfall. What a strange name. It has an even stranger three words for this location, and that's crisper snuggled pouch. So that's our woodland behind me there. There it is. Unfortunately, there's no access as far as I can see. It looks like, well, certainly sounds like there's a nature reserve. There is a lake in there as well, a large pond. I can hear some wildlife on that pond, but I can't get in there to have a good geek, as the Cornish would say. Yeah, just beautiful. I just can't describe how wide and how dramatic the River Severn looks at the moment. It really is quite stunning, especially on a beautiful June day such as we have here at the moment. So I'm stopping here for my second break. Yes, I have tea again. I got another couple of teas to go in my thermos. We're actually over halfway on our walk towards Oldbury-on-Severn. Of course, I still need to walk back to my car later part of the afternoon when it cools down. Still only about just after 9 o'clock. So I think I I arrived at Sharpness docks just after 5, 5:15, something like that. And I actually set off on foot from Sharpness around about 6:30 after I did those introductory film shots there. This is the sea wall there, so we've got this large embankment there, and Sabrina is over the other side of that. I'll be walking back up there, and the woodland I talked about is just behind the camera, so the camera's actually tied around the gate post again, which is always quite handy, but you can't get through it because there's no right of way through there, and obviously the gate's locked, and I would respect that anyway. We'll be continuing on there. As soon as I get down there, that's when we'll leave the county of Gloucestershire. Anyway, I'm just going to chill out here for a bit. There's no rush. Going to take my time today because I say it's going to get a lot hotter this afternoon, which is when I'm going to rest in some shade somewhere in Oldbury. But I will show you around Oldbury before I close the video off later. Anyway, that's a little while to go yet. We've got a link up to a place called, now I never know the pronunciation of this one, I'm sure if you'll correct me. Is it Shepherdine or Shepherdine? I don't know. It's either or. Which I have done a video about before, which strangely titled called A Lost Land, a Found Church, and I'll link to that at the end of this Severn Way one today, because there is a tin church. Tin churches always interest me. It's a really good one there. But walking along the embankment there, we find another chapel, which I didn't realise when I made that video, so I'll show it to you in a bit. So this kissing gate behind me and gate there denotes the line between the two counties. Goodbye Gloucestershire, hello South Gloucestershire. In fact, we'll be in South Gloucestershire for the rest of the Severn Way until the last bit of the last video, when we're walking between Severn Beach and the city of Bristol. I'm not sure exactly where the border is, but I'm sure we'll find it when we do that video. But yeah, so we're in South Gloucestershire now for the rest of the day and for the next video as well, as we head on down to Severn Beach. So now we've got to another pill. It's outflow, and this is obviously flowing into the River Severn, and this is called Hill Pill. If you think that's a strange name, it's because there's a village stroke hamlet called Hill behind me, which I have again covered a little bit before, because there is a deer park there which is owned by the Berkeley estate. And we've also got, as you probably just noticed now, we have a large ship sailing up towards Sharpness docks. I'm not sure whether it's carrying or whether it's empty and about to collect. No idea whether that's some kind of container ship. I'm sure if you are an aficionado of shipping, you might be able to enlighten me as to what that is most likely to be. I'll see if I can find some information online as to the shipping movements here today to see what that's most likely to be. But yeah, so that's great to see that going past, just as I'm looking here, or standing on the bridge across Hill Pill, looking across Sabrina and the ship towards the lower part of the Forest of Dean. It does seem to be also going up the Severn at quite some rate, and I think the reason for that is that the tide is coming in, so normally you'd expect the water flow be coming down from Gloucester, so it's made its way from the source on Mount Plimmerman, where we started our adventure here on the Severn Way. And it seems a while ago now, well, it was a little while ago, on that mountain there, and flowing down, but it's not. It's actually going up because the tide is racing up, and I'm sure that's helping to push the ship towards the dock. So that attractive white house there used to be a white, well, it's known as the White House, I wonder why, but it was also the home to the lightkeeper who once lived here. Now, there's a little bit of interest on these signs here because, and a story behind them as well. Public footpath, self-explanatory. I don't know why it doesn't say South Gloss, but it doesn't. Severn Way. Never heard of that one. That's where we're on, of course. And then it says Windbound Wander, a forgotten landscape. Now, that's why I called my video that I made here, probably about 3 years ago now, actually, a forgotten landscape, because this is known as the forgotten landscape. And there was like an art scheme to get together to do like paintings and photography, that sort of thing in this area. Why is it called Windbound? Well, now therein lies a tale. We're going to come onto that house you can see almost just, well, to the middle left of your screen at the moment. And we have another ship going up the Severn. Busy day in Sharpness docks today. I think when I get back there it's going to look really busy. But yeah, there used to be a pub further along here called the Windbound, and it was sadly demolished probably about 20 years ago now by a German nuclear power company. I know, it's all rather strange. The land was sold, the landowner was bought off, the landlord should I say, and they demolished it, ready to build another nuclear power station on the banks of Sabrina. But it never happened. For some reason the German owner of the power company pulled out last minute. But sadly the Windbound is no more. So there is our second ship floating up towards Sharpness docks. It isn't usually this busy. I think they're making the most of the high tide here at the moment. It also gives them an extra lift, doesn't it, to get them upstream towards Sharpness. So there's that white house again from a slightly different angle. Beautiful windows there. Really unusual style for this part of the world. And there is our ship sailing up the River Severn. Again, it looks empty. So it looks like it's going to be loaded and come back down. Presumably when the river is changing its direction as well. Wonderful sight though. I think it actually says JP Torno. Ship in one direction, train in t'other. This is a radar system here for shipping lane. Decker radar by the looks of it. Yeah, originally I thought this was something to do with like measuring speed. No, but it is actually a shipping radar system. And then you have a house behind it. More of which in a moment. So this is Chapel House. Built in the 14th century originally, although modifications to it. And I guess the clue to its history lies in its name. Yes, it was originally a chapel as well as a house, because the rector or vicar lived in it, but he was a lighthouse keeper too. So he had two jobs, preaching and manhandling the lighthouse. They'll be able to just make out through the fields there is a house just beyond the hayricks in the field, and to the left of that is a green building. That is Shepherdine or Shepherdine Tin Tabernacle. Very long freight train heading north up towards Gloucester on the other side of the Severn at the moment. Just going past the wind turbine now. So I think this was the site of the former Windbound pub. I think this is the remains of its wall just hereabouts. I never actually even knew about it when I was growing up in Gloucestershire. I know we're in South Gloucestershire, but would have been Avon then, of course. But not that far from where we live. And I didn't even know of its existence. But apparently it's fondly remembered by many. If you do remember it yourself, please drop a comment below and tell us all about it. Now the following sign is interesting to read out. It's by Magnox Electric. Extreme danger. Do not trespass on the reservoir walls. The wall will be covered by 20 feet of water at high tide. There is a very strong current and the tide rises 1 foot every 5 minutes. Like I say about the tidal reach here is extraordinary. So yes, these are the tidal pools. It's obviously we're lowish tide at the moment, but it is gaining height. And there are walls just below where you can see the grass there, which keeps the water in at that point, and then I think they suck it in to use it. Although the power station here has been decommissioned now. So this is Oldbury Nuclear Power Station. It was started off being designed at the end of the 1950s, just a little bit after Berkeley was. Construction started in 1961 by, I think it was Robert Lang Construction, I think that's right. And the power was switched on, or it started generating power into the national grid in 1967. But it was switched off not that long later in 2012. It doesn't seem that long to me after going to all that trouble to building something enormous construction. So what's that, 40 something years of providing power into the national grid. And still, so 12 years later after switch off, they are still decommissioning it. However, it was also the site of a number of things being filmed here. One of them is particularly strange. So Oldbury Nuclear Power Station has been used a number of times by the BBC, and yeah, one of them is really odd, as I'll explain. So Oldbury Power Station just over there somewhere, so I can't see it properly because the sun's right on the screen at the moment, so I hope you can see it somewhere over there. There's that sign I was reading off, that's there, isn't it? And the Severn bridges are just over there. First of all, it was used in the 1970s, I think in 1975, in a Doctor Who episode, or a couple of Doctor Who episodes. Would that have been Tom Baker then? Probably around there. So not John Pertwee. I think John Pertwee would have just left. That was 74-ish. Tom Baker would have started. And the episodes, or that strand, was called The Hand of Fear. So if you want to check that out, that was filmed there at Oldbury. A few years later, another science fiction production, one that was really good. I know it had famous for its wobbly sets, a bit like Crossroads, but it had some great storylines, and that was Blake Severn. Many episodes of Blake Severn were filmed here in the 70s. Don't forget, in the 70s, this was operational. I don't know how on earth they got permission to film inside that building when this was generating electricity from its nuclear source there. I've no idea, but they did. Now, this is the most bizarre one of all. The group Slade, famously Noddy Holder from the Black Country, not a million miles away from here, probably about 60 miles north of here. He and his band did a live recording inside of the power station at some point in the 1970s. I don't know what song it was, and it was recorded for Top of the Pops. How about that? That just blew my mind. We'll continue our walk onto the village of Oldbury-on-Severn. I managed to find a lovely seat here. It's actually only the second seat that I've found since I left Sharpness. This will be my last stop before we get to Oldbury-on-Severn. The power station is just through this hedge here, actually, I think. So we're actually, unlike Berkeley's power station, which we had to walk around the back of, mainly because of Berkeley Pill and the ability to cross over that large tidal inlet there. Here we're actually walking in front of the power station, so there's like a little causeway between, well, not causeway, seawall between the power station and the River Severn here, where we've got those, as I say, those lagoons or pools there, which we use for cooling. So I'm cooling myself here at the moment underneath this. Well, I think it's just for blackberries, probably. I can't see any on it at the moment. It's a little bit too early for that at the moment, but it's in the shade. That's the main important thing. So I'm just going to rest here a little while and enjoy the view that's in front of me, and then I will continue on to conclude our leg of the Severn Way here to Oldbury-on-Severn. This looks like a hand cranked sluice. It's no longer in use for water to come out of the nuclear power station, as I say, which was decommissioned some 12 years ago now, and that certainly hasn't been used in a while. So there's the two large Magnox nuclear reactors, a lot closer up, and they have a crane here. There's like a wharf on the right hand side, which I'm walking towards. I wasn't expecting to see that. I don't know what that's all about. Part of the decommissioning kit, I would guess. As you can, sign says Nuclear Installations Act 1965, the Oldbury site. Licensed site boundary, so it's got an inner fence and an outer fence. Certainly I'm going to be trespassing in there, that's for sure. I was surprised to see there is a transparent fence here. I thought there might be some kind of thing which prevents you looking in, but yeah, I'm really quite close up to the nuclear power station. In fact, you can see the pylons there, which would have once carried the electricity generated on site here back out onto the national grid. Well, I've no idea what I'm looking at here, so please drop a comment below. Looks like there's cables there as well. Obviously it's a heavy lifting beam, up to 15 tons, metric tons I do believe, but for what I'm not entirely sure. So quick spin around here. So there's that lifting device going out into the River Severn, and here's the first of our Magnox reactors, and beyond that is the other one, but it's hidden by large buildings of enormous site here. There's people working on the base as well. Well, having just walked past the front of Oldbury Power Station, I've just come along the footpath a little way. Sabrina's still there, just on the right, and I've come into this wonderful little woodland, well, copse, just beside the Severn Way here, just to chill out and cool off a little bit before continue the journey on to Oldbury-on-Severn. But it's very cooling in here. I think it's about 26, 27 degrees out there at the moment, probably only about 20 here, so just spending a few minutes, a few moments with nature, just cooling out and chilling out here before we continue our walk. So with Oldbury Power Station behind me, it's at this point here we're going to say goodbye to Sabrina. It's not the end of the video though, but goodbye Sabrina, because, oops, nearly fell over then. We're going to turn inland now, just going to go past, I nearly said Portishead. No, that's not the right one, is it? Thornbury Yacht Club, which is just in front of me. I'll just give you a shot of that now, which I took using my other camera lens. And we'll see Sabrina again next time here on West Country Wanderings, when we go from Oldbury-on-Severn down to Severn Beach, passing underneath both those Severn bridges, which you can see over there, somewhere over there. I'll do a close-up of it now so you can see that, those bridges, wonderful bridges, aren't they? And we'll be turning in following the Oldbury Pill. Now the Oldbury Pill, up until the early 1970s, was tidal all the way right into Oldbury-on-Severn. But the problem, of course, with that is that it meant that whenever there was high water in Sabrina, the village flooded. So they put in some sluice gates, of which there are some Environment Agency people working on them right now. Again, I'll put a clip in of that so you can see that. And that stopped it being tidal from that point on all the way into the village. And next to the bridge that carries the road over Oldbury-Pill, there is a pub, and that's going to where I'm stop, and then I'll make my way up to the church to the end. This section of the Severn Way. See you in a bit. Well, I've managed to get some refreshments here in Oldbury-on-Severn. There is a pub called the Anchor, which is open from 12 to 2:30 p.m. in the afternoons every day as far as I can make out, and I think it reopens again at 5 o'clock in the late afternoon. But I managed to find a wonderful community shop. You can sit inside it and have drinks there, hot and cold drinks. They do teas, coffees. They've also got fridge serving cold drinks and ice creams as well. Now I managed to get a cold coffee and some ice cream, as well as a couple of bottles of really cold water. Very friendly shop there. It's run by volunteers, also good value for money. They also sell sandwiches in there and all the usual sort of things you expect to find in a community shop. Wonderful place, as is Oldbury-on-Severn itself. Really enjoyed my walk here along the Severn Way. Just 2 more lengths of it to go now, till we get to our final destination, the city and port of Bristol. I'll just conclude with a few shots around Oldbury and some other shots. So I'm going to make my way, I'm going to wait here for a couple of hours until it cools down first though, and walk back to my car at Sharpness, and I'll do some other bits of photography and filming as I do so, and I'll include that at the end of the video as well. Hope you enjoyed it today here on West Country Wanderings along the Severn Way. Until next time, take care of yourselves, all the best, bye bye for now.